We kick things off straight in the future, but society is not in a good position. It's 2034 in Japan and things have become rather depressing for those with dreams. It is impossible to achieve something in this era unless you abandon everything else, such as work, sports, and other hobbies. Now, we meet our hero who goes by the player name 7. He is the undisputed champion in an online fantasy game named Mobius, and he has not even experienced a single defeat in his entire playtime. His rank is so high that he can be treated as a literal god in the game. However, after all those years of effort trying to make himself the legend he is now, it turns out that our hero is going to lose it all today. It turns out that his character 7 has been hacked and deleted. Everything has gone away from his system, and that also includes all his backup options. The worst part is that he isn't the only victim of this crime. As a matter of fact, this has happened with over 3,000 elite players on the Mabayon platform. After a careful investigation, the culprit finally gets caught, but it turns out to be one of the high-ranking players from the game. He had basically gone ahead and hacked all the players out of jealousy. Our hero realizes that 7 could have been one of the reasons behind the culprit's actions. But it turns out that the real villain is Mobius. They are unable to restore any of the characters that were deleted, and all they can offer are some silly discounts while creating new characters. This is the worst possible thing that can happen to the affected players, so our hero angrily lashes out at his own stuff. He tells us that the victims even tried to raid the Mabayon office, but none of that led to anything useful. He feels hopeless now that he can never get his position back again, but at the same time, he doesn't want to waste away in his current mood. However, his solution to the situation isn't what most people would expect. He actually takes his own existence because he doesn't see the point of carrying on like this. However, he doesn't pass on to the afterlife as such. Instead, he finds himself in a fantasy land that looks a lot like the gameplay from Mabayon Online. We even see that he is in the kingdom of Castal, which is the royal capital of the game. Our hero is in his gaming avatar, but it doesn't look like 7, so the confusion only continues to grow. He finds himself outside a store named Icicle, and it attracts the attention of a cute girl named Ice. She tells our hero to step away, because he is blocking the view of her store. He knows her from the game, but he hasn't ever heard her say lines like these. As he starts thinking about what's going on, Ice becomes even cuter and starts speaking to him in a gentle voice. This makes our hero blush because he thinks this is some kind of godly update. For some reason, it feels like Ice can hear what he is saying, so she acts shy and rushes back into the store. Our hero is still trying to figure things out, and that's when he sees his face on the reflection of the store's glass. He is currently in another gaming avatar that he had created by the name of Second. Sadly for him, Second is just a mule character who was made as a backup. He had not trained this character to do anything useful, so he is starting out with 0 XP. Our hero doesn't see the point of continuing in this character, so he decides to log out of the game. However, he is unable to do so, and starts to think if this is some kind of glitch in the Matrix. But then, he quickly figures that he is not in a fantasy, but rather his new reality. He had indeed taken his life, and has now been reincarnated into the world of Mabayon. He also remembers that he had wished to be born into the world of Mabayon during his final moments on Earth. It looks like his last words were granted as a wish, and he is now a real-life character in a real-life Mabayon. He pinches his own cheek to check if he's dreaming, but it hurts, so he is very much in flesh and blood. After this exceedingly long sequence, Second rejoices like a madman and starts thanking God for letting him be reborn into a fantasy world. His happiness doesn't go on for much longer, because he is quickly taken down by a knight in shining armor. Our hero has no idea why he's under arrest, but then he sees Ice telling the knight that he was creating a ruckus outside her store. This breaks Second's heart, and then he gets taken away to the night station. It turns out that the knight is actually a cute woman, and she asks Second why he was disturbing the other townfolk. He says that he just got a little excited, but then he starts thinking about the knight. She is quite pretty, and he has never seen her in any of the previous games he's played. This means that she's exclusive to this world, so more goodies await our hero. She asks him if he has come from a noble family, because he is dressed like that. However, Second tells her that he is just a normal guy. This doesn't seem to land on the knight, so she tells him that she is part of the Third Chivalric Order. Noble men have no effect on her or the other knights, so she demands to know his identity. Second keeps saying that he is an adventurer, but the knight doesn't believe him and threatens to slash his throat with her sword. Our hero panics upon seeing the blade, so he tries to comply with the deadly beauty. It turns out that he is being treated as a shady person because of his clothes. Sadly for Second, this was just something he did out of boredom to make his character look nice. He's in big trouble because the knight is running out of patience. We learn that knights like her usually have to deal with the drama of her superiors, which is why she has such a keen sense of justice. The tension continues to build in the room, but then a superior knight walks in and scolds the crazy lady. Her name is revealed to be Sylvia, and the superior knight tells her to stop questioning Second in an impolite manner. He apologizes for her behavior and continues to question Second in a proper tone. Our hero introduces himself as Second, who is 17 years old, but reveals to us that his real name is Satu and he is 28 years old. The superior knight asks Second why he was dancing around and making weird noises, because his methods were causing an issue to the icicle store. Satu feels like a fool for doing what he did, but maintains that he had only zoned out and had no idea about his behavior. The superior knight finds it hard to believe, but Second convinces him that his intentions were in the right place. Having said that, our hero is let off the hook, but only after he pays the damages to the icicle store owner. Luckily, he doesn't have to pay much, so he wonders how this society functions. As a matter of fact, he has over 2 billion in the local currency, and his armor is also worth around 300,000. However, he doesn't know if this amount of money is good enough in this world. It definitely feels different from the Mabayan he's used to, but before he can figure anything else, Second's belly rumbles, so he figures he should eat a meal first. He ends up inside an inn, and heads inside to ask how much it costs for a night. The receptionist is also a cute girl, and she acts shady after hearing these words. It's actually quite similar to how Ice had reacted to Second, so he begins to suspect something about the girls in this place. Anyway, the girl gives him the price per night, and he is shocked to learn how cheap it is. After realizing that his armor is indeed very expensive, Seven decides to book 5 nights at the inn for now. The reception girl shyly agrees to give him the keys, and they share a moment during this. Seven gets a mushy feeling as he does this, and he wonders what it might be. The girl is also blushing to no end, but our hero doesn't quite get it. Later, as he sits at the bar, Seven figures that it's his clothes all along. Since they're so expensive, the people of the bar start gazing at him, especially the women, because they like fancy men who can buy them fancy things. The common folk continue to look at Second with jealousy and passion, so he soaks in the attention and sits proudly as if he's just won a war. He explains to us that it wouldn't matter if he himself was handsome, but as long as his clothes look noble, everyone is going to enjoy his presence. Suddenly, he starts thinking about his past and all the people who doubted him for his passions. He was told to go to school and be a hard worker, because playing video games was a waste of time to them. These people never even cared for what interested him, and they only wanted to be a part of the rat race. However, now that he is living the dream life, being eyed by pretty girls and insecure men, our hero is glad that he never backed away from his passion. He starts thinking about how his knowledge of this world is going to help him in every single way, because he knows the dirtiest of secrets of the kingdom. All of these thoughts and emotions start to build inside his head, and it eventually causes him to lose control of his calmness. That's when Second starts laughing like a madman, because he feels like he has won the game of life. Nobody reacts to his behavior, so it doesn't look like he's going to get arrested again. With this new epiphany, he sets a new goal for himself. Second is going to become the #1 player in this world, just like he did when he was 7. The scene fades out after this, and we're taken to the next morning where Second wakes up with a bad hangover. He remembers what happened last night and says that he went over the top with his booze. He also laments that he can't really last long with alcohol, so he should take care to avoid hangovers like the one he has right now. After all, this is no longer a game, but rather his life now. He has to now think about the path needed to become the #1 player in Mabayan, and to kick things off, he needs to acquire necessary skills. These skills are many and wide, so it is out of the question for our hero to ignore them. Now, he explains the rules of Mabayan to us, and starts with the need to gain experience points. Basically, it's the best way to boost your stats, so it comes first as a priority. In order to get this done, you will need to either defeat monsters or complete quests. It's actually a complex method because certain skills have certain ranks, and the highest rank is the title skill. There is way too much on Second's mind, so his tummy growls to remind him he's human. There's also a special way to grow these skills, but food comes first, so our hero drops by the bar to ask the cute reception girl for curry and rice. Now, our hero takes out his character card and learns that Second has the same growth type as 7, which is that of an all-round fighter. It's good in terms of growth because there's no odd distribution, but the problem is that he can only become a jack of all trades and master of none. Either way, he managed to become the #1 player using the same method as 7, so this should not be any different. As Second continues to examine his journey to the top, he is served with curry and rice by the reception girl. Second tells us that the first few stages of his growth will be the most intense of them all, and this is why he will have to rely on a special kind of method. We see a potion specialty store, where Second is doing a round of shopping. He asks for a whole variety of special potions and wants the max number of bottles for them. This comes as a shock to the shop owner, and he warns Second that he might run out of money. Our hero still asks him for the number, and the shop owner says that he has over 600 bottles. Despite the astonishing amount, Second simply smiles and asks for all of them, which sends the store owner and his assistant into a tizzy. Once again, he tells Second that the potions are of a super high quality because of their abilities. The total for 630 bottles comes to over 75 million of the local currency, but that's no issue for the billionaire player. He buys all of the bottles with cash and crams them into his inventory. To add further shock, he asks the shop owner to stock up soon, because he needs at least another 9,000 bottles of the same potion. Of course, this is a rather strange purchase, so Second decides to explain why he's buying so many of these potions. He says that it's called the DK tactic in Mabayan, and it's basically a cheat code for gaining experience points. This method actually existed in an older game known as Dinosaur Quest, where you could throw fixed damage items at premium level enemies to defeat them. Second gives us another lesson by saying these potions can help with recovery, dispelling, and detoxification as well. So, these potions can also be used against undead opponents like zombies. With such a useful weapon at his disposal, our hero can take down as many zombies as he wants, which will give him a good amount of experience. On top of that, these potions deal a fixed damage of over 1,000 points. This means Second can defeat intermediate level monsters like the Viper Zombie, which has a juicy amount of experience points. But how many times does he need to do this in order to gain the right amount of experience? Well, Second says that he will need to buy at least 10,000 bottles of this potion to achieve his goals, and that means he'll need to spend at least over 1 billion of the local currency. The only people with that kind of money usually have a main character on their side, but that isn't the case with Second, so he has to rely on cheating for now. However, he also notes that such a tactic can only be used at the start, and it will become useless once he reaches the intermediate level. Now, he goes to a stable and buys a new horse for himself. He names it Seventh Tayo and sets off on a journey. He doesn't want to resort to what he has in mind, but doesn't have much of a choice. He goes 2 hours away from the royal capital and locates a cave. This is because there's a famous hunting ground over here. Sadly for Second, he isn't able to find a single soul inside the cave, which is not what he had expected. He thinks that the cheat code method hasn't been discovered in this world yet, or maybe nobody has tried it yet because the potions are too expensive. Either way, since Second is the only one who knows of these methods, he can hunt as much as he wants. After a bit of looking around, he finally spots the viper zombies that he was talking about earlier. One of them looks up at him, and he comments that they look a lot worse in real life than they do in the game. Second gets to work and sneaks up on one of the viper zombies. He then fires one of the potions at it, and the damage is successfully dealt, thus leading to the monster's defeat. He manages to get through all the viper zombies in this cave and feels good about it. His plan is to move forward to other hunting grounds to defeat more monsters, and then return to this one. It's because the vipers come back to life for you to continue hunting them and gaining experience. For now, Second has 630 potions, which should be good enough for him to gain a good amount of experience. He can safely continue with this method and build his skill rank till the shop owner gets more potions for him. Time for fun is over, as the sun sets, so Second figures that he should head back to the town. He gets on his horse and rides back to the royal capital. He intends to eat a nice meal, get drunk, take a bath, and then get some sleep. However, he comes across Sylvia, who points at him aggressively and asks for trouble. Second has no intentions of making small talk with her, but she ends up chatting with him anyway. She remembers him as the man she was questioning earlier, and then she asks what he's doing outside so late at night. There is doubt in her eyes, so Second realizes that he's being questioned yet again. He says that he was at the mines in order to gain experience points, but this only makes Sylvia more suspicious. She doesn't believe that Second would go to such a dangerous place only to defeat monsters. However, he shocks her even further by saying he had gone there because the zombie vipers were delicious. Sylvia thinks that Second is a fool, so she tries to act smart with him by taunting his intelligence. Our hero finds Sylvia to be cute, but also very annoying. He wonders why she finds the mine areas to be dangerous, so he asks her about the 21 dungeons of Mabayon. Basically, these dungeons are called the 21 paradises, which the players would do their best to raid. They would even team up and try all types of tactics to find their way through the dungeons, but even that wouldn't guarantee anything. Sylvia is confused to hear the number 21 and says that there are only 19 dungeons. Second seems to have understood what's going on, so he asks her how many of these dungeons are being raided right now. She says 13, and that's all our hero needs to hear before taking off. Basically, people are scared to risk their lives in these dungeons because you only get one shot in this world. It's not like a game where you can start over from a checkpoint after being ended. Here, it's all over if you're defeated even once. Luckily for Second, he has enough knowledge to suffice for tens of thousands of lives. This means that the goal of reaching the number 1 position isn't as tough as he had once thought it to be. The next morning, Second goes to the Grand Royal Library because he finally has enough experience to be here. But why is this such a big deal in a place like Mabayon? Well, that's because reading books also helps to build skills. These are specific skill books that can't be found anywhere else in the kingdom. Suddenly, another cute girl appears in front of our hero, and she asks if she can help him with something. He manages to control his intrusive thoughts and changes his focus to the skill books. In the game, simply flipping through the book's pages is more than enough to count as reading, so Second is sure that he can get through a lot of books in the least amount of time. His main aim is to learn the skills of swordsmanship and archery. However, that's not all, because he also needs to master certain elemental skills to be able to perfect the fundamental skills. This is once again a very complex matter, so our hero focuses on simply acquiring the skills rather than explaining it to us in detail. He goes for the spear and pawn moves for swordsmanship and archery, and manages to learn everything within a few moments. His next target is sorcery, so he moves on to the 4 key elements associated with it. They are earth, wind, fire, and water. As he brushes through the library, Second notices that the grimoires are the same as they were in the game. This means that he can access the other ones either by visiting the Royal School of Magic or completing high-difficulty quests. In the middle of his searching, Second manages to learn a lot more skills, and he feels like this is all a piece of cake. At this very moment, the cute librarian drops a book and bends down to pick it up. She doesn't seem too fazed, but our hero can see more than what he bargained for, so he has to control his emotions. There's no time to be distracted by pretty ladies, so Second begins his training plan. He starts off with archery and swordsmanship for his first few rounds and proceeds towards sorcery and conjuration to finish off his regime. As he continues to train, he comes across a special limited offer. It's called the Premium Spirit Ticket, and it was a part of the special avatar our hero had bought for Second. The best part about this ticket is that you can use it to summon a rare spirit who will help you with your missions. It's a great deal if you think about it, but it might not be the best way to battle if you're just a beginner. In order to control a rare spirit, you need to have some level of proficiency in the skill Second is practicing. So, it makes sense for him to take it easy for now and only use his trump card when the time is right. Since everything is going as per his plan, Second decides to purchase some weapons so that he can distribute his experience points evenly amongst his skills. What follows is a detailed visual showing us how he chooses his weapons for the purpose of enhancing his characters. However, in the process of aiming for the moon, our hero runs out of all his experience points, so he has to make do with the partial progress for now. It's not a problem as such, because he can always go back to the library for a quick recharge. With that out of the way, it's time to put more energy into the archery aspect of his training. There is an entire list of options for archery, and each move has its own set of advantages, but Second doesn't want to master just 1 or 2 of them. He wants to do it all, so he pushes himself with his spear and pawn archery skills. The learning process goes well for him, and his stats increase at the right pace. Things start to look good for Second as he not only trains himself to gain skills, but also buys the necessary items to help him use them. He equips himself with all kinds of premium weapons, such as bows, arrows, spears, and more. Despite the progress, he still feels that he doesn't need to accept any actual quests as of now. He takes his training to new heights by pulling off feats that are pretty much impossible. For instance, he finishes off monsters while riding a horse, and even manages to take 20 of them down with one single blow. The success he achieves starts to look even more impressive as he pulls everything off while also maintaining a very close watch on factors such as distance and timing. Everything has gone well for him till now, but the main challenge is yet to come. Second finally feels that he's reached the stage to pursue castle archery, which is the toughest one of them all. It requires an amplified strike skill, which means that the impact of a single strike can be as effective as a 600% amplification. However, in order to acquire this skill, he has to go through the most tedious tasks of them all. This involves tasks such as ending 1,000 monsters or landing 500 critical hits. Our hero is confident that he can pull them off, but what bothers him is the toughest one of them all. Here, he has to end 3 monsters in a row that have attacked and drained at least 50% of another player's HP. Also, he has to do this while standing at least 5 meters away, and he has to use a very specific combo move. The very thought of pulling it off gives Second anxiety even while he eats his lunch. The worst part is that if he messes this up even once, then he has to repeat the whole process all over again. The stakes are high, and this is not a game where our hero can ask other players to allow their HP to be drained to 50% in order for him to complete his tasks. Since this is the real world, it is a risk to your life if you were to allow that much HP to be drained from your body. It's a difficult choice for Second, but he does want to achieve the castle archery skill because it will help him a lot during his main mission. After giving the whole thing a lot of thought, he decides to go ahead with the challenge. At the end of the day, he has to wait for an opportunity to pull off the task, but it actually happens to him sooner rather than later, and that too in the most unexpected fashion. A week has now passed since Second has been reincarnated into this fantasy world. He has used his cheat codes to achieve the impossible and raise his skills. Now it's time to go for his sword skills. However, before he can go ahead with anything else, he hears someone screaming in pain. Some knights are shown to be in distress, and one of them tries to carve out a path for the safe escape of the team. Second rushes to the scene and observes silently from the bushes. He notices a bunch of scarlet mantises that are attacking the knights. It doesn't take long for him to figure that 5 of the knights are almost near their end, as they are lying on the ground without even moving an inch. The other 5 knights have taken out their swords and are entering a circular formation, which means that they will also be tormented and ended by the insect monsters. This is something that our hero has never seen before, even in the Mabion game, so the situation is quite dire. A lot of thoughts are floating in Second's head, because this is his big chance. He can actually defeat these monsters and gain the castle archery that he so badly needs. However, he isn't sure if the knights in question are at 50% HP, so he doesn't want to take the risk. The problem with this approach, though, is that the knights on the ground are not player avatars but real people. It feels wrong to let them suffer just for the sake of a few stats, and it makes Second feel guilty about even thinking this way. These people are just like him, but the difference here is that they might actually lose it all. Our hero decides he's going to help them despite the situation and brings out his bow. He orders the knights to get down, and then he unleashes the 5th grade spear archery move. A dazzling display follows, as Second takes down all the scarlet mantises with one shot. The knights are amazed to see such a brilliant display of skills, and then Second strikes a pose to show off his hero aura. Upon opening her helmet, one of the knights is shown to be Sylvia, and she can't help but gaze upon her savior. He just pulled off something very heroic without worrying for his own life. It makes her go against her first opinion of Second, because she believed he was a spoilt brat who had no idea how tough the real world was. However, here he is with a move that finished off 6 scarlet mantises with the power of archery. It makes her wonder how much training Second had to go through to be able to pull off such a feat. Seeing our hero in this form takes Sylvia back to her past, which was a difficult one. She had to prove herself as a worthy fighter time and again, but was still made fun of for being weaker. Even after landing a job as a knight, she was put into the lowest of ranks and was treated in a lax manner. Her thought process actually becomes very deep and philosophical, because she's always wanted to prove her strength to her peers. She goes back home after being rescued and starts thinking about the inequality of power in the kingdom. People like her are looked down upon, while noble men are treated with respect and dignity. It actually makes her blood boil, and she wonders whether she has achieved what she wanted to achieve as a knight. Sylvia knows that her bosses want Second to join the guild because he looks like he's from a noble family. She doesn't know if this is the right thing to do, but at the same time, he did just save her life. Later, her superior knight asks Second if he has any intentions of joining the Adventurers Guild. Our hero wonders why such a question has come up, because he was hoping to receive a word of thanks for his efforts. The superior knight tries his best to tempt Second into joining the guild, but our hero says that he has no reason for doing so. He then goes on to tell us that while the guild has a lot of power and takes care of monsters invading the land, they are also a corrupt group of people. They use their status to get adventurers to work for them and expose their information. But how does Second know something like this? It's because this narrative was pushed in the game back when he used to play it. Since he knows the dirty secrets of this world, he immediately refuses to join the guild. Second says that he doesn't care about money and wishes not to be tied down by another party. However, the superior knight says that the offer is too good to refuse. He tries to sweeten the pot by saying the wealthy and powerful members of the guild have taken a liking to Second, especially after his rescue mission. Our hero figures that the guild is trying to say that they will protect him if he joins them. Of course, he knows that all of this is a scam, but he's also curious as to why the guild members want him so badly. He still declares that he will not be joining the guild and would prefer to wing it solo. He also states that he wants to be the #1 player in this world, but then the superior knight drops a bomb on him. He says that Sylvia is now going to follow him everywhere to keep a tab on his activities. This is basically a nightmare for our hero because he knows how much of a pain Sylvia can be. The superior knight tries to act nicely and asks Second if Sylvia is the right choice to accompany him. None of this makes any sense to Second, but then he works his brain. The superior knight had said that Sylvia is against nobles, which means that she doesn't agree with the ways of the chivalric order. This leads Second to believe that the knights are trying to demote Sylvia by sticking her to him. It actually turns out to be a good deal for our hero, because he gets a cute female knight for free, and he doesn't have to worry about her snitching on him to her bosses. He asks the superior knight about how long Sylvia is going to be with him, but he gets a rather abrupt surprise when she is called into the room. She is ordered to be Second's escort, and the both of them get some kind of exemption from the chivalric order. The superior knight just keeps barking orders at Sylvia and tells her that he can decide her duties with just a single word. Judging from these words, Second realizes that nobody in the chivalric order likes Sylvia. He takes a look at her innocent face and curvy body, but his intrusive thoughts start to take over. He manages to come back to his senses and asks for 2 years with Sylvia. He feels that this time period will be more than enough for him to achieve the #1 ranking in the world. The superior knight accepts the proposal almost instantly, and just like that, Sylvia gets demoted to being Second's escort. The new couple chill at the bar for a bit, but Sylvia can only think about how her family always looked down upon her, because she didn't have the skills for sword fighting. However, Second has some other ideas in mind, and he proposes a deal to Sylvia. He tells her that he knows the superior knight might have ordered her to seduce him, but she doesn't respond with any acceptance. Basically, she decides to listen to what Second has to say, and then she can take a call on how to deal with it. What she did not know at the time was that this deal was going to change her life forever. Second says that he knows she wants to work as a knight forever, so he wants to help her. Sylvia starts to look at Second with dreamy eyes, but that could just be because of the meads she's drinking. Our hero finally proposes the idea of Sylvia quitting the chivalric order and going out with him. This puts her in a state of shock and she lets out a massive shriek. Second quickly realizes what she's thinking, so he says all of this is part of the deal. Sylvia calms herself down and proceeds to listen to the rest of the chat. Second says that he can help her get to where she wants, as long as she does what he asks her to do. Sylvia says that she's never been able to carry out an act of justice because she doesn't have the skill of the sword. Second awkwardly tells her that she should try something else like a spear or a bow if that's the case. This obviously makes her angry, and she lashes out at Second, but then she realizes that he's speaking with logic, and she's the one being stubborn. Sylvia reveals how she thinks of herself as a failure of a knight because of her lack of skills. As a matter of fact, the scene becomes so emotional that tears start pouring out of her eyes. Second simply tells her not to think about it like that. After all, what matters is the implementation of justice, and not the weapon which is being used for it. His words have the right effect on Sylvia because she starts to see sense in his philosophy, especially after remembering the brilliant display he put up while fighting the mantis monsters. She immediately says that she will go out with him, and Second is glad to hear this. Now, our hero decides to tell Sylvia about his dream, and goes on to talk about his ambition to become the world's #1 player. Of course, Sylvia doesn't understand what he's saying and even finds it silly. However, she still looks at her new master with dreamy eyes, because he has a strong passion for his goals. Seeing the determination in his speech makes Sylvia want to do the same thing, so she wishes to help Second in whatever way she can. This is her chance to paint a brighter future, but our hero seems to have shady intentions. He sits by his bed and starts laughing like a maniac again, because his plan seems to be going perfectly well. He believes that he had planned the whole thing, right from getting Sylvia drunk to having her fall for him over his fancy words. Of course, the booze had a huge role to play in this, but none of that matters for now. The cute reception girl can hear the madman laughter from her desk, but Second doesn't care and goes on to think about how he's going to use Sylvia. She has become his comrade now, and that too after leaving the chivalric order, so it's a big deal for him. However, he needs to figure where her true skills lie, since it's not in swordsmanship. Sylvia should have some sort of abilities for archery or sorcery, but she can also have production abilities, which isn't of much use to Second as of now. Our hero's ego keeps getting bigger as he wonders how so many things fell into place today. However, he expects himself to win because of his past experience in the game, so it was just a lucky case of coincidences. The highlight, though, is that he has finally learned the castle archery skill, which has been on his head for so long. It's been a tiring day for him, so he lays down in bed and starts thinking about Sylvia's training. He too needs to gain more experience points, so he figures out how to sort that as well. Second keeps laughing like an evil villain in the middle of these thoughts, and the noise reaches downstairs again, where the reception girl wonders if he's lost his mind. The next day, Second tells Sylvia that she should try her hand at magic archery, and it surprises her. Of course, our hero just wants a comrade who's skilled in sorcery and archery, but he doesn't let her know that. The main reason behind this is that he has studied her stats and can see that her points are good enough for her to become a magic archer. Sylvia is unsure about this because she has never heard of a magic archer before. Second is shocked to hear this because magic archers were all over the place in the Mabayan game. If Sylvia doesn't even know what it is, then he has his task cut out for him. Anyway, he tells her that such a person does exist, and she is going to train for it. He suggests going to the library to gain the necessary skills via reading. After that, Second says that he is going to go to the forest to train against monsters and Sylvia is going to join him. She doesn't seem to follow what he's saying and looks confused. Second realizes he's going to be teaching Sylvia as if she's a newbie, but he's up to the challenge. His words seem to make Sylvia blush, and seeing this makes Second feel a bit mushy inside as well. Later, our hero tells Sylvia about all the secrets of the most powerful skills in archery and sorcery. This makes her even more shocked, because such intel was only shared amongst the most powerful nobles of her time. Second tells her not to think too much about it, but secretly thinks that the reason this world is different from the game is because the nobles have kept all this information secret from the common folk. It also explains why the general combat levels are so low in the kingdom. Sylvia starts to panic because if she were to use such skills in public, she would get exposed and eventually get tortured for it. She makes a cute, panicked face, but Second simply tells her not to use her new skills in front of other people. It is possible to do something like this, so Sylvia plays along for now. The training begins and Sylvia manages to pick up a wide range of skills without any issues, just like Second did. The only problem, though, is that she makes a big deal out of all the abilities she learns. She thinks that she's got a lifetime's worth of surprises today, but Second tells her that the day isn't over just yet. He transfers one of his expensive potions to her, and it shocks Sylvia even further. She's worried that Second wants her to put the potion where no man has ever gone before. So our hero reassures her that his intentions are not so obscene. He says that he's going to help Sylvia learn the cheat code tactic, but she has no idea about what it entails. Some bats can be seen hiding in the shadows, and then Second asks Sylvia if she would like to learn castle archery as well. She would love to increase her skills, but isn't sure of the process behind it. That's all our hero needs to know, and he decides to go to a dungeon named Royce. The thing about Royce is that it's a second rank dungeon, which means it's for intermediate level players. First rank would obviously be the highest, but our hero wants to take things slowly. Sylvia wants to know why she's being taken to an advanced level dungeon, so Second explains the rewards for conquering it. The boss of this dungeon is a beast known as the Flame Wolf, which drops a weapon known as the Flame Wolf Bow. This bow is larger than most other bows, and also has flame powers, which means that Second wants it at any cost. More than that, the aim is to help Sylvia learn castle archery, because the monsters in this dungeon are best suited to that goal. Basically, there are two key focus points here. The first is to grow their skills, and the other is to collect rare items. Soon enough, Sylvia comes across some mini flame wolves and starts to panic. Second seems calm and composed as he tells her to use what she learned from before. Using her skills, Sylvia begins her attack and manages to take down one of the beasts with ease. She feels incredibly powerful all of a sudden, and that's because her skills have all grown to grade 1. Of course, the main reason behind this is the cheat code method that Second has used on her. Our hero proudly tells Sylvia that he has done as he had promised, and she happily smiles at him. Sylvia looks very cute when she's grateful, and Second is surprised to see this side of hers, as he is only used to the other version of her character. As the couple continues to pass through the Royce dungeon, Sylvia grows stronger and stronger with the cheat code method. She keeps thanking Second for being her trusted mentor, and even he is happy that Sylvia is proving to be a worthy companion. Her progress motivates her to become a magic archer, and our hero is surprised to see how fast her confidence can grow. However, all is not done just yet. They're at the last stage of the dungeon, and for Sylvia to learn castle archery, she will need to fulfill the same requirements that Second had done when he rescued her and her team. Suddenly, the duo comes across a boss-level monster, and Second prepares his aid for them. It turns out to be a flaming troll, who is the perfect target monster for Sylvia to learn castle archery. These beasts are extremely powerful, but they do have a weak spot, and it's their shiny cranium. There are a lot of flaming trolls in front of the couple, so Sylvia takes cover behind one of the pillars. At the same time, our hero thinks that it's the perfect time for him to make his apprentice a certified castle archer. He tells Sylvia that she should only fire at the monster's shiny head when he gives her the signal, but she wants to know what he's going to do. It's quite obvious that he's going to let his HP fall to 50% so that Sylvia can nail the requirements, but he doesn't tell her that just yet. Instead, he asks Sylvia to remain calm no matter what happens in front of her. Now, Second assesses his HP stats and tells us that he can take as many as 3 critical hits from the flame trolls. As expected, he's really scared and doesn't feel okay about it, but he must do what is needed to make Sylvia a trusted partner. He stands in front of the flaming troll and gets ready to get whacked as the monster prepares itself. Our hero takes the first blow with pride, but he's faced with a few problems. The first one is that not even a quarter of his HP was taken out, and the other one is that he's almost lost his teeth. Normally, such things could have been solved if he were playing the Mabayon game, but this is real life, so his teeth might just be gone for good. Sylvia screams in fear for her master, and her loud cries motivate Second to do his best against the monster, even if he feels it's a bad idea. The sight of the flaming troll makes his tremble, but he does not want to give off this vibe to his assistant. After all, he's the #1 player in the world, and he can do it again if he just puts in the right effort. This thought process makes him go crazy, and he continues to chant that he is number one multiple times, just to calm himself down. The monster obviously doesn't care for any of this, so he prepares to whack our hero again, and lands a clean hit. Second is sent crashing against the wall, and things start to look bad for him. He takes a look at his HP and can see that it has dropped to below 50%, which means he's done his job. Our hero can finally breathe a sigh of relief, so he asks Sylvia to land the finisher move. She does so with ease and takes down the flaming troll with one shot. It's a great moment for her, but the job is not yet done, because 2 more trolls need to be taken down. Second pulls through and survives the ordeal, but Sylvia doesn't like the fact that he's taking the hits for her. She keeps calling him a fool as he lays helpless on the ground, but our hero can see the nervous blushes in her eyes. After all that hard work, Sylvia's efforts finally pay off, and she learns castle archery, which is a very big deal for any kind of knight. She becomes excited and ecstatic while also thanking Second for making this her reality. Our hero likes the sounds of her praises and can also feel good about helping her earlier, even though he had to endure a world of pain. Second is very sure that he is going to have just as much fun in this world using a spare character as he did when he was using 7. All of this is because of Sylvia. Now that all the major training is done, it's time to go for the big boss, and that's the Flame Wolf. Since its entire body is covered in flames, the beast is resistant to most forms of attack. This is why most of the players in Mabayan used to call it a massive pain in the behind. Luckily for our heroes, Second knows how to deal with this monster, so he tells Sylvia that they'll have to stun lock it. She tries to play along with what he's saying, but she has no idea what he means. Basically, this is a method that reduces the flame wolf to a little puppy by constantly attacking and repelling it from both ends. Sylvia is also supposed to be a part of this equation, so Second teaches her the strategy. The name for this tactic is the ultimate gold bishop stun, which is something Second finds really cool. Sylvia can't get why he's being so animated, but she agrees to do as he says because it's a safe option. It doesn't take long for our heroes to come out on top and defeat the flame wolf with ease. All of this is great, especially with Sylvia learning castle archery, but Second still wants the flame wolf bow, so the two of them will still need to put in a lot of work. 3 weeks pass by like this, but after taking down a few dozen flame wolves, our hero finally gets what he wanted. The flame wolf bow drops after one of the battles, and Sylvia rejoices because her master has achieved his goal. However, to her surprise, she learns that he never intended to use this bow in the first place. As a matter of fact, he just went through all of this trouble so that Sylvia could get the bow. She has no idea what's going on, so Second states that he is going to shift to sorcery, so it doesn't make sense for him to use the bow. Since Sylvia is going to become a magic archer, she should be the one using the bow. Sylvia feels grateful to her master and says thank you, but she doesn't realize that he hasn't figured out her crush. After a little awkward chatting, the couple decides to leave the dungeon and move on to their next mission. Second says that he wants to use Sylvia's connections to the Royal Academy of Magic. This is because she was born into the Virginia family, which is known for having connections. She doesn't say anything as such, but we learn that Second wants to get his hands on a grimoire which can only be found in the Royal Academy of Magic. Since the academy doesn't allow anyone inside, other than students and teachers, it would be easier to go through a connection. After all, there's no telling how long it would take for Second to get enrolled into such a strict school. Sylvia tells Second that she would love to help him, but is in no position to do so. This is because of her father, who has pretty much disowned her due to her initial lack of skills. She even goes on an emotional journey recalling how her father would never respect her, but our hero isn't interested in the drama at all. Second figures that Sylvia will not be of any use to him over here, so he has to target her father. Without further ado, He decides to use a deception tactic to trick Sylvia's father, which gives her a big shock as well. He wants to put his plan into action as soon as possible, and dresses up in fancy clothes to deceive Sylvia's dad into thinking he is a foreign nobleman. However, her dad, whose name is revealed to be Noir, bows down immediately to Second, which doesn't make any sense. Anyway, Second keeps up with the act and manages to convince Noir to write him a transfer letter to the Royal Academy. However, he doesn't want to stay there for too long, so he enrolls as a foreign exchange student. He manages to crack a deal for 2 weeks, and then he makes another request to have Sylvia travel by his side to assist him. Noir blindly agrees to everything Second says, even though he's a little doubtful about Sylvia. He feels that his daughter isn't skilled enough to assist a lord like Second, but our hero maintains that he wants Sylvia. Noir acts odd with his choice of words, but it looks like Second has succeeded in his deception mission. With that, our hero thanks Noir for his support and says that he will most definitely remember the Virginia family for the help they offered him. He strikes a victorious pose as he says this as well, but something seems off about the way he is pulling this deal. What exactly is going on over here? Is Noir trying to act innocent in front of our heroes because he's hiding some other intentions? Like, share, and subscribe to find out in the next video. Hit the bell icon to get notified when I upload part 2. See you in the next one.